Digital marketing, it's a catch all word, but I think, uh, in my opinion, digital marketing now definitely replaces advertising. Whether you like this or not, if you look at ad spends globally, it's increasing from the 10 to 20% to even 70, 80% of your sales, advertising, marketing budget. The effect that large tech companies have on brands such as Google, Amazon, Facebook, is changing the whole paradigm. There's a huge paradigm shift in the way. So I would put all advertising under this single slide that I'm going to be explaining to you and talking to you about. Um, and it connects the advertising agencies to what is happening today. So let's look at this and look at the end results of what the shift is. Um, Traditionally, if you go back 25, 30 years, you had this big orange line between conventional advertising and uh, non-conventional. So the conventional was, as we call it, the line above the line, ATL on the right corner being above the line. And anything below that is called below the line communications, below the line advertising. So you would recognize that in 30 years back, you had TV and press, which dominated the media scope. And that's all got fragmented today. Press is way down. Digital media has overtaken the printed word, and television is being replaced by OTT, uh, Netflix, Amazon for movies. Sports channels have emerged. YouTube has started to come up. It's fragmented entirely. So the TV and press, in the traditional way that we know it, with large ad spends, uh, still dominates certain segments, certain markets, but definitely changing right now and going forward. Also, we would look at all markets in two ways, as B2C and B2B. So, more or less, it's the same. If you want to reach out to your set of customers in a B2B, business to business situation, as opposed to a business to consumer, uh, the approaches are, the spread will be different, but the approach would be similar. So if you look at below the line, traditionally, I would like to move from the right to the left. So if you start at the extreme right, you had merchandising. So you had merchandising and you had a brand building coming from that extreme, moving towards the left, which is the internet and currently much more mobile. Mobile penetration, m-commerce is far wider and deeper than internet. Thanks to the pandemic, or no thanks, however you look at it, digital spend, online commerce is increasing. It's fast tracked that whole shift of the GDP from mom and pop stores, physical to virtual digital. There's not been too much of increase. It's just a morphing of the business. So the business has itself has not may not have grown, but it has morphed from physical to the virtual or the digital. So how do you take care of? So there are two broad approaches: the push and the pull. Traditionally, we would push with ad spends, catalogs, coupons, different ways of market surveys, opinion polls, sampling. So we push something out and hope that you're able to trap, throwing the net far and wide to get your leads moving towards trial and eventually getting the customer. Customer loyalty is definitely on the wane now because of the entry barriers have become extremely low for anyone to get in. And online, digital, people can go to a physical shop, look at things, and go and buy it online. Uh, when you can't differentiate, when the salesperson doesn't make too much of a difference, then you're not going to buy from person X or person Y because you're dealing with something online. So there are a lot of factors which is happening on the push side of things. The pull side is how do you retain that person? How do you stimulate relevance, interaction, engagement? How do you retain the customer and get repeat purchases? The very approach in digital marketing is very different. So the pull approach is something which we'll get into a lot more detail going forward. And uh, that requires time as well. It might not be covered in this video, but when you implement it over 3 months, 6 months, or an annual contract, you are experimenting with some of these aspects. Being available for a sale is the first thing about any sales. The whole purpose of marketing is to help sales. And the point in sales is if there's a at any given point, if you can close a deal, you must close the deal. So allowing yourself to be able to sell, whether online, on a mobile, or anywhere, has to be made. Most people are still printing brochures and having websites, and okay, that's good information. You need to share that. If people are seeking further information before buying, yes, you should share that information. But why aren't you closing? You have to close at every given point. It's ridiculous if a salesperson, someone wants to buy a car, walks into the shop and says, I want this car, here's the check, then start making a sales pitch to that person. It's as ridiculous as that. So this is happening. So while we look at the internet and mobile, the big new factor is the AI aspect, automation. There's a lot of things happening. We'll discuss a little bit more about how automation is starting to play a major factor in digital marketing. So the idea is to increase transactions. So the transaction being to close a sale, apart from the brand building on one side where you have recall, you're able to generate premiums for your brand, increase the reach, uh, you're able to do brand extension in so many different ways, vertically and horizontally. So transaction increase and repeat buys is what you would aim for. Now, what AI is achieving, and it's changing dramatically, is while press is something we read, literacy was required to read the newspaper or a magazine. If you were illiterate, you did not have access to press, which is why below the line makes a lot of difference to we had hoardings and other means of reaching people who are illiterate, rural markets. You had a very different approach because of a literacy factor. That shift from press to TV saw that people were starting to read the news on the television. People who can watch a product. So by observation, by seeing others, and TV made it remote. I could see what somebody else was consuming elsewhere. Now with globalization, you know what the average person in Japan or Europe or US is consuming. And when you see some consumption of that, you also seek to consume. So TV brought that paradigm shift from press to TV. Now with mobile, that has expanded further. It is no longer ombudsman and editorial and based on any intermediaries. So the intermediary has been completely removed. Disintermediation has taken place dramatically, where in a mobile, if I like something and the product is good, and it may not even have a brand name, I can post it. And if it had enough takers, people would get in touch with me, and I would be able to make more of those and sell it. And so it's completely disintermediation of a very large scale is happening there. Now, with the large companies like Amazon, Facebook, um, what's happening with AI is also a shift from this text-based to voice-based. For example, when you have voice-based or search-based at Google, what appears on top? So if you have six, say, battery service providers near your home and you wanted your battery to be serviced, the one that appears on top is what you are likely to go to in a search. And that's the big fight. So there are six providers at a local level near you. They'll all have to compete with each other to be on the top. And that's the game that the Googles and the Amazons play, and which is coming up as antitrust practices. So when this shifts to voice, it's even worse because at least in text, you get to see those six in a list. Six people, six battery service providers only. But if you ask Alexa or Siri or any of the voice based, the chances are you will get only one response, the top response. You will not get the other five responses which are there. So there's going to be a huge shift as you move away from text based searches to voice based search. How do you reach rural markets using voice? So the people have not understood the impact of voice as yet, and you can see some big tech companies are investing a lot in the voice, and but it'll shift. Marketing, how you sell, how you reach out to your customers is going to again shift dramatically. This will go back to the old marketing thing of two horse race. So in most brands, most categories, you have just two, and if you're a third or a fourth horse in the race, you're not going to win. So being the two horse theory, but actually move towards a single horse theory. If you're not the lead horse, the first horse, you perhaps do not have any chance in selling. So as you approach digital marketing, you have to bring all these factors in mind, apart from all the clicks and the conventional jargon which is there right now on search engine optimization. All that is great, fine, but where is it leading to? Has to eventually come to this concept of above the line, below the line, understanding how digital marketing and social media interact on either side of the line, the pull versus push, the brand building versus transactional increase, and the role that artificial intelligence, machine learning applied to even things like audio is going to affect your bottom line going forward. So if you want to get into an actual contract on digital marketing, please do get in touch with us. We'll be able to help you implement a lot of this as an integrated whole for your enterprise.